Hello, Tarnished, and welcome back to another Souls-like video! Today, we're diving deep into Lies of P, the Pinocchio-inspired Souls-like that surprised a lot of us with how ambitious and emotionally layered it is. This game blends Victorian horror, fast-paced combat, and one of the most memorable and compelling stories ever told in a Souls-like game. With around 30 hours of gameplay, branching decisions, and bosses that hit harder than a guilt trip from Geppetto, there's a lot to unpack here. And we finished this game on stream about 2 months ago, and I'm finally getting around to telling you guys my honest review on the game in general. Whether you're a veteran Souls-like fan or you're just wondering what makes Lies of P stand out in a crowded field, this video's for you. I played it start to finish and I'm giving it a strong 8 out of 10. Some flaws, sure, but it absolutely delivers on atmosphere, challenge, and storytelling. Let's break it all down, covering gameplay, lore, design, performance, and much more. We'll also compare it to Elden Ring, Bloodborne, and Sekiro so you can see where it shines and where it stumbles. If you enjoy these long-form reviews, hit that like button, subscribe, and share your own thoughts in the comments. Now let's jump into the twisted, tragic world of Krat. Right from the opening cutscene, Lies of P sets a bleak and melancholic tone. The setting of Krat feels alive yet broken, which echoes of a city once fueled by automation and now ruined by its own creations. It borrows heavy inspiration from Bloodborne, but trades the Lovecraftian horror for a steampunk fairy tale aesthetic. What works incredibly well is the commitment to atmosphere. Streets littered with broken puppets, collapsed carriages, and eerie music boxes. The color palette is rich in blues, coppers, and grays, helping reinforce the mood. Rain-slicked cobblestones and foggy courtyards make every step feels like a descent into something unnatural. There's almost no hand-holding, and the world design lets you slowly piece together what happened in Krat. NPCs whisper cryptic warnings, and the level of environmental storytelling pulls you in hard. I was hooked within the first few hours, just not from the gameplay, but because the city itself felt like a mystery worth solving. It's rare for a Souls-like to feel this thematically cohesive right from the start. Krat feels like it has a soul, albeit one twisted by ambition, sorrow, and blood. From ruined puppet factories to opera houses teetering on collapse, there's always something strange and beautiful to find. The tone never lets up, and that consistency makes Lies of P stand apart from many of its peers. Combat in Lies of P is tight, weighty, and precise. It doesn't quite match the buttery smoothness of Sekiro, but it's a step above many other Souls-like when it comes to responsiveness. You have a perfect guard system, dodge rolls, and weapon arts known as Fable arts that make for layered strategic encounters. The most unique twist, you can mix and match weapon blades and handles to create your own custom fighting style. Want a heavy axe head with a rapier handle for fast swings? You can do that. The result is a combat system that rewards experimentation while still demanding execution. Perfect guarding instead of dodging is emphasized, but both are viable if you invest in the right stats. Stamina management is crucial, and the game leans into posture-breaking mechanics like Sekiro. Every boss has a kind of rhythm you have to learn. Rushing in usually gets you punished. Enemy animations are clean and readable, and the difficulty is fair if unforgiving. You'll die a lot, but most deaths feel like learning experiences rather than cheap shots. I'd argue the combat alone carries the game through some of its slower story beats. With each encounter, you feel yourself getting sharper, faster, and more confident. And when you finally parry that flurry perfectly and counter for the win, it's pure Souls-like satisfaction. The build freedom in Lies of P is one of its biggest strengths. Instead of being locked into rigid weapon archetypes, you can disassemble and recombine weapon parts to suit your playstyle. Handles determine your moveset, while blades determine your damage and weight. That means even if you like a specific combo pattern, you can pair it with different elemental or physical damage types. On top of that, Fable arts provide special attacks and buffs. Similar to Ashes of War in Elden Ring. There's no traditional magic system, but elemental damage and ranged options exist through throwable gear and arm modules. The Legion arm is the closest thing to a prosthetic or magic tool. It gives you abilities like flamethrowers, grapples, and shields. Stat scaling is straightforward but effective. Motivity for strength builds, technique for dexterity, and advance for elemental setups. You also unlock passive buffs through quartz upgrades and P-organ circuits, which let you fine-tune your approach further. Want to parry more easily? There's a buff for that. Want faster stamina recovery? You can build for it. With all of this, respect options are limited, but not impossible. You can try out new builds as long as you invest wisely. This encourages thoughtful planning without completely locking you into one style. While the selection of weapons isn't massive, the modularity makes every choice meaningful. I constantly found myself tweaking setups for bosses, which kept the combat fresh. Bosses in Lies of P are some of the most memorable in the Souls-like space this year. They feel weighty, aggressive, and demand keen observation and pattern recognition. Unlike some Souls-like that rely on brute difficulty, Lies of P's bosses blend creativity and strategy. Many have multiple phases that change up the fight dramatically, keeping you on your toes. The animation quality and visual design lean heavily into the grotesque, puppet, and steampunk theme, which creates a unique aesthetic identity. Boss arenas are designed to emphasize positioning and awareness, not just DPS races. Some bosses encourage you to exploit elemental weaknesses or switch builds mid-fight, which ties back nicely to the modular weapon system. Difficulty-wise, they strike a balance, punishing but fair, with clear tells and windows to strike. I loved how each boss felt like a story in itself, embodying the tragedy or madness of Krat. Their lore is cleverly integrated through items and descriptions and subtle environmental cues, rewarding lore hunters. You die often, but deaths teach you more than frustration, unless you're fighting the boss where people keep jumping in. They push you to improve, mastering timing, spacing, and resource management. For fans of classic Souls bosses, but looking for a fresh twist, these fights deliver. Some highlight moments include the Puppet Master battle and the clockwork monstrosity in the cathedral. They make you feel both terrified and awe-inspired, a hallmark of great Souls-like encounters. The city of Krat is sprawling but tightly designed, with interconnected shortcuts and hidden secrets. Exploration feels rewarding but not overwhelming, a sweet spot between Bloodborne's compact Gothic city and Elden Ring's vast open world. The verticality is nicely done. Expect to climb, drop, and sneak through crumbling buildings. Environmental storytelling is everywhere. Graffiti, torn letters, and decayed machines hint at the downfall of this puppet-infested metropolis. The day/night cycle and weather effects enhance immersion, though they don't affect gameplay mechanics significantly. Unlike Elden Ring, the world isn't about vast freedom, but about creating atmosphere and mystery. It encourages methodical exploration and backtracking with new gear or abilities. There are optional areas filled with challenging enemies and rare loot, rewarding risk takers. The game smartly avoids overwhelming you with fast travel points, encouraging a natural flow through the city. Loading screens are minimal, keeping momentum high. NPCs are scarce, but meaningful when you find them, often offering cryptic advice or side quests. Some areas shine with creative set pieces, like the Puppet Factory or the Ruined Theater. While exploration lacks the sheer scale of Elden Ring, the detail and cohesiveness make every corner feel alive and purposeful. The balance between open areas and claustrophobic corridors keep tension high. Overall, Krat is a masterclass in how to build a memorable Souls-like setting without needing an open world. When it comes to lore, Lies of P really shines here. It tells a twisted Pinocchio tale through a dark Victorian lens, blending classic fairy tale elements with original tragic themes. The narrative is fragmented and cryptic, revealed through item descriptions, NPC interactions, and environmental cues. Unlike Elden Ring's sprawling mythos, Lies of P focuses on more contained personal story about identity, humanity, and sacrifice. The protagonist's journey as a puppet seeking humanity is deeply emotional, especially with branching dialogue and multiple endings. The lore dives into themes of memory, corruption, and the price of ambition, far more focused than most Souls-like. The city of Krat's history unfolds layer by layer, showing the consequences of unchecked technology advancement. There's also an undercurrent of social critique on control, obedience, and what it means to be alive. The story's pacing is deliberate, rewarding players who piece together lore patiently. Side characters add depth and moral ambiguity, often forcing tough choices. While Elden Ring excels in world building, Lies of P excels in storytelling. retelling with the most memorable and compelling story ever told in a Souls-like. For fans who crave lore-heavy games, it offers a rich tapestry that's accessible but deep. Its horror elements serve the story, never feeling gratuitous. The multiple endings add replay value and invite players to explore different facets of the tale. In my opinion, the lore in Lies of P surpasses even Elden Ring in emotional resonance, solidifying it as the narrative peak of the genre. Graphically, Lies of P uses a gritty, detailed art style that fits its dark fairy tale vibe perfectly. The steampunk-inspired environments and character designs are highly detailed without feeling over-polished. Textures and lighting do a great job setting mood. Wet cobblestones, flickering gas lamps, and rotting machinery all contribute to the immersive atmosphere. Character animations are smooth and impactful, especially during combat and boss fights. The game also uses dynamic camera angles well to highlight tense moments. On the audio side, the soundtrack is haunting and minimalistic, relying heavily on piano, strings, and industrial sounds. The sound design amplifies the tension, creating gears, distant screams, and unsettling puppet noises keep you on edge. Voice acting is solid, especially for the main characters, adding emotional weight to key scenes. The UI is clean and thematic, although it can feel a bit cluttered in some menus. Performance-wise, the game runs well on mid-range systems with only occasional frame dips. Overall, the audio-visual package reinforces the game's tone and narrative, making for a cohesive sensory experience. It may not have the polish of a AAA title, but it nails mood and style consistently. Fans of gothic and steampunk aesthetics will find a lot to admire here. The attention to detail in environmental sounds helps immerse you fully. Lighting effects during combat create dynamic cinematic moments. The minimal yet impactful score complements rather than overwhelms gameplay. All told, the presentation elevates Lies of P beyond typical indie fare. On the technical side, Lies of P delivers a mostly stable experience, especially considering its ambitious scope for an indie developer. Load times are fairly quick, keeping downtime minimal between areas and deaths. However, some players have reported occasional crashes and minor bugs, particularly during boss transitions. The game isn't completely free of glitches. Some enemy AI can get stuck, and collision issues pop up rarely. Character hitboxes feel accurate, though hit detection can be a bit finicky in fast sequences. The controls are generally responsive, but some players may notice input lag on certain controllers. The developers have been active with patches since launch, addressing many stability problems and optimizing performance. If you're playing on consoles, the experience varies. PS5 and Xbox Series X versions run smoothly, but last-gen consoles see reduced frame rates and longer load times. There's also a lack of extensive accessibility options, which could alienate some players. Overall, technical issues don't seriously detract from the experience, but bear mentioning. Performance is solid enough to support the game's challenging combat exploration without frustration. The developers' continued support gives hope for ongoing improvements. I recommend keeping your drivers and games updated for the best experience. For a Souls-like debut, the technical foundation is impressive and shows real promise for future updates or sequels of the game. Comparing Lies of P to Elden Ring is inevitable, given their genre overlap and recent release proximity. While Elden Ring boasts a vast open world and an unprecedented exploration freedom, Lies of P offers a more focused and story-driven experience. Elden Ring excels in scale and player choice for exploration, whereas Lies of P shines in narrative, cohesive, and atmospheric density. Combat in Lies of P is more technical and modular weapon crafting, whereas Elden Ring offers diverse play styles, including magic and summoning. In lore, I find Lies of P to have a tighter, more emotionally engaging story, while Elden Ring's mythos is grand but often abstract and diffuse. Exploration in Elden Ring is unparalleled, but Lies of P's world is compact and crafted with careful thematic intent. Boss battles in both games are challenging, but Lies of P focuses more on tactical defense and posture breaks, reminiscent of Sekiro. Performance-wise, Liza P is lighter on hardware, making it more accessible to players with mid-range PCs. Online features differ significantly. Elden Ring has co-op and PvP, whereas Liza P opts for nothing entirely and is completely solo player. Both games deliver satisfying combat, but Liza P brings unique twists like modular weapons and a steampunk aesthetic. In short, if you love Elden Ring's freedom but crave a tighter narrative and more focused combat, Liza P is worth your time. It's a strong compilation, not a clone, standing on its own merits. Not only that, but Liza P encourages replayability with its multiple endings and branching dialogue options. Choices made throughout the game affect the story's outcome, character relationships, and some world states. This means your first playthrough might only scratch the surface of what the game actually offers. Some endings reveal deeper truths about the protagonist and the city, rewarding thorough exploration and decision-making. The branching narrative also influences side quests and NPC fates, adding weight to player agency. Combat build variety further promotes replay value, as trying new weapon combinations can dramatically change your approach. There's a New Game Plus mode that ups the challenge, but lets you retain many upgrades, perfect for veterans. Speedrunners and challenge seekers will find plenty of room to experiment. Achievements and collectibles add extra motivation to revisit areas. While the world isn't as massive as some Souls-like, the narrative branching adds significant depth. This layered storytelling ensures Liza P stays fresh well beyond the first run. The multiple endings enhance player investment, giving meaning to choices instead of feeling superficial. If you enjoy exploring different facets of a game's story and combat, Liza P rewards dedication handsomely. The combination of narrative and gameplay incentives keep the experience engaging throughout repeat play. The difficulty curve in Liza P is well tuned for players familiar with the genre, but welcoming enough for newcomers willing to learn. Early areas introduce combat basics gently, but bosses quickly ramp up the challenge. The learning curve emphasizes patience, observation, strategic defense over button mashing. Perfect guarding and timing are rewarded, and stamina management is crucial. Unlike Souls-likes where enemies can feel unfair, Liza P provides clear tells and encourages learning patterns. Mid-game bosses introduce new mechanics that force players to adapt and refine their builds. The difficulty spikes feel justified and add to the game's rewarding nature. Deaths are frequent but rarely frustrating, unless you're fighting some bosses, serving as teaching moments rather than punishment. Optional areas and bosses provide even harder challenges for those seeking them out. The lack of co-op means solo players face the full blunt, increasing tension. The game's pacing balances moments of exploration and story with intense combat well. Enemy variety keeps encounters fresh, with puppets, machines, and human foes. Difficulty doesn't rely on cheap tricks, but on mastering the game's systems. Overall, Liza P strikes a good balance that satisfies both hardcore Souls fan and motivated newcomers. After playing through Liza P in full, I can confidently say it's one of the best Souls-like I have played so far. The game combines compelling narrative, innovative combat systems, and a haunting world in a package that's both challenging and emotionally engaging. Its strengths lie in its modular weapon crafting, focused storytelling, and atmospheric world design. While it isn't perfect, minor technical issues and the lack of multiplayer co-op might disappoint some, it still offers a polished and a memorable experience. I personally give it an 8 out of 10, ranking it above many Souls-like that try to copy from software but fall very short. Most importantly, Liza P delivers the most memorable and compelling story in the entire Souls-like genre, with a tightly woven narrative that resonates far beyond the game itself. And in terms of lore, it even edges out Elden Ring for me, thanks to its emotionally resonant story. However, Elden Ring still takes the crown for exploration and sheer scale. If you're a fan of Bloodborne, Sekiro, or Elden Ring, but want a darker fairy tale with rich combat, deep customization, and an unforgettable narrative, Liza P is a must-play. Shows that the Souls-like genre has room to innovate and surprise you. For those hesitant about jumping in, know that the difficulty is tough but fair, and the game rewards patience. If you enjoyed this review, smash that like button, subscribe for more Souls-like content, and drop your thoughts or questions below. What was your favorite part of Liza P? The bosses, the lore, or the combat system? I'm excited to hear your take. And as always, if you haven't already, please head on over to my Twitch at limerivt so you can watch me play Souls-like games on the daily. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the runes. Goodbye, Tarnished!